Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about flow state and how it can help your team's productivity and yourself as well. What if I told you that 87% of employees never experience true flow state? Man, I feel sorry for them. They're actually missing out on their peak performance. Welcome to Kathie's Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Kathie Owen. I want you to picture your favorite athlete. The one that always makes those shots despite being booed or despite all of the stress that's on them, or even the ones that miss it, but they still find flow state. They happen to understand flow state. They epitomize flow state. They're actually someone I look to when I'm trying to understand flow in my life or understand flow when I'm teaching somebody how to get into the zone, which is flow, by the way. They have managed to enter flow state, which is where challenge meets skill. They know they have the skill, and they also can find the challenge. And when the challenge meets the skill, they are in flow state. This is why that great basketball player can make that free throw despite being booed incessantly, despite all of those little things in the background cheering and trying to distract them. They still hit it. And even when they don't beat themselves up about it. So flow can help your team become more productive at work. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And that includes you as well. Flow state is a wonderful, wonderful state. It was coined by the psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he wrote the book Flow. I'll have a picture of it right here, and then I'll also have a link to it in the blog post that I include in every video I do in the show notes and description below that has bonus resources for today. Flow state is that perfect balance between challenge and skill. And there's 3 areas we're going to cover today that your team could benefit from or you yourself could benefit from. And those 3 areas are focus, adaptability, and resilience. I want you to think of a river for a moment. The river flows, it's got the banks, it's got currents, it comes over rocks. It is the greatest metaphor you can think of for flow state. The current that goes on inside the river can represent your skills. The banks on the sides of the river can represent your structure or your boundaries. And then imagine the river being blocked. They call it a dam. And when it is blocked, what happens? Things spill out on the side and things become overwhelming. It goes over the dam that's been blocked the river. And we're going to talk about how all of this relates to your team's productivity or your productivity as well. First of all, we have focus. You want to build a distraction-free zone where you can actually get focused. In today's world, distractions are coming everywhere. We always have things that are distracting us. But when you set a boundary, the banks of the river, when you set a boundary for your distractions, you're able to focus. And focus is a key component of flow. Then we have adaptability. There's something I call the 5-minute pivot technique. And this technique is helpful because you're going to have to pivot and move between the currents. And that takes your skill as well. But we want to use our skill to our advantage. And we can do that by taking this 5-minute pivot technique. And that technique just entails sitting down and go, okay, I've hit a block in my skill or something has happened. I'm going to take 5 minutes to step away for a minute. For example, I used to have a lot of struggles with recording my videos. My computer was messed up, and so my videos would get stuck and things were messed up. And that to me was a sign that I needed to step away. because I had met a challenge that didn't meet my skill. So I adapted by pivoting, and I would just step away maybe for a day. And that time frame would help me pivot back into flow state. Instead of becoming a flow breaker, a distraction, it helped me readjust and adjust my skills accordingly to meet the challenge. And then there's resilience. We want to learn from setbacks. We want to learn from those instances where we lost the game. But if we look at it like this, we can celebrate the small wins and still have flow in our life. I'll go back to the example of the teams. You have so many teams in a league, and only one of them is going to win the whole championship. And that means there's a lot of losers? No, that means there's a lot of small wins along the way for everyone across the board. When my son was in Little League baseball, I would get so frustrated because parents would cheer for somebody who messed up, and these are just little kids. And I know that builds resilience, but at the same time, I couldn't cheer for the kid who was messing up because I'm like, I'm a mom. That kid has a mom, and I can only imagine how she feels right now. And I'm not going to cheer for that mistake, even though my son may have made that hit. It was still a mistake on somebody else's part. You celebrate your small wins that go along the way so that that doesn't sting so bad. You hear me talk about habits a lot. Habits are really, really helpful in building a flow state. And here's why. Habits become unconscious behaviors. Think about it. When you drive your car, do you think about every little step you took? No, because if you did, it would take too much energy from your brain. So when you start to create habits, do tiny habits, do the power of habit. Those are books, by the way, that I will link in the blog post that goes with this episode. But when you think about building habits, when you build them slowly but surely, you unconsciously start to build the habit of finding flow. Let's talk about that. So individual habits can look like this. You do task chunking. For example, right now, I am recording videos in chunks so that I can do all of the video recording tasks at one time. Then I'll go into editing tasks. That is task chunking. When you think of a project, if you break it down into different tasks, it makes it easier and it makes flow come naturally. That becomes a habit. Another great individual habit is called learning sprints. What is that? That means you are learning different things and then you go practice that skill. And learning that could be as simple as listening to a book while you're in the gym. And then you think, oh, I'm going to go practice those tasks. Because success doesn't just happen overnight, it's built on these task chunks and learning sprints. Team habits can look like this, working in a collaboration on something, or even sharing some skills that you've learned along the way that you can help others to develop on and even get better all the time. It works like magic. And leadership habits. I'm going to be talking about professional football and some of my favorite coaches coming up in some future episodes about how they built a culture that you could practice the same habits that they have, that they work on, that they do inside your business that will help build the culture that is a successful team. What do I mean by that? This is a leadership habit. You constantly want to be learning how to improve your leadership skills. This should never end. It's an infinite game. We're constantly improving. We're constantly getting better. We're constantly hitting opportunities, which are setbacks, but we still see the opportunities where we could help get better over time, where we can help find flow state. And that could be a challenge calibration. And then we also want to have the feedback loops. One of the most important things that I do as a corporate wellness consultant is assess a team. You constantly want to understand where you have opportunities, which could be looked at as setbacks, but you have opportunities for improvement, for helping your team find more flow, to help your leadership skills get better. There we go again. There's that word, skill. Challenge meets skill. And when we find that sweet spot, we start to find flow and we start to get better and better and better. That is a feedback loop that you get from your assessment. So you have that loop that just keeps going on and on and on, and it's never ending. And I invite you to look at places where you could give yourself feedback in that loop and continue to improve on a regular basis. Again, it's an infinite game. So here are some implementation steps that you could start taking today. Number 1, start assessing the challenge and skill balance. Where's the challenge and where is the skill? This can go with yourself as well. So for example, I was talking about how I would have trouble with my video editing. It was my computer, but I wasn't at the skill level I needed to edit my videos. So I needed to balance that out. How did I do that? I stepped away for a little while. I stepped away for a couple of days. I started studying it and learned to improve my skills on editing and getting better at recording the content. And next thing I know, I'm in flow. It was a balance, and it started with assessing my skills. Another thing you can do is just choose one area to focus on. What is that area? Maybe you need to improve on your leadership skills and study that and slowly but surely build that skill. Just like the athlete, they have to study where their skill is not meeting their level. A free throw shooter in basketball, maybe he sees in this game, I did not hit the shots that I usually hit. So he started practicing it, and when he practiced it, he got better and better with time. Another way you could start implementing it is implement micro habits. Tiny habits. I love the book Tiny Habits because what he does is he teaches you how to start building healthy habits on top of the habits that you already have going on. So if you're already brushing your teeth in the morning, you could add, listen to my affirmations at the same time, repeat my affirmations in my mind at the same time as I'm brushing my teeth. And then it becomes a habit. That's a micro habit stacked on top of another micro habit, which becomes a healthy habit. And remember, habits are unconscious behaviors that we do automatically. So they're already a wonderful way to improve your skills. And then finally, we want to track and celebrate those wins. Celebrate small wins. I can't tell you how impactful this is. So a small win could be just getting out there and doing something you've been trying to do. Even if it's just a hobby, you've been trying to build on that habit. Or you actually did the habit of whatever it was when you were brushing your teeth. Celebrate that small win. Yay. Go team. So after listening to this, I want you to start to think of flow breakers in your life and how you react to them. And remember, we all get them. Are you very, very reactive and very angry, or do you look at it as an opportunity to get better? That goes the same for your team. And as a leader, if you can teach this and coach this, just imagine how much better your team is going to get when you start to help them find flow. Because remember, I started this with 87% of employees are not practicing this simple process that could help them become more productive and more successful. As always, in every episode I do, I include a blog post. It will be in the show notes and description below. And this article will have bonus resources that go along with this episode, like the books I talked about today, or just simple tips that I didn't even happen to mention in here that may really trigger you into finding your flow state. And I also invite you to share in the comments below maybe your win for finding flow or something that you found was helpful to finding flow state. All right. That's my video for today. I trust that you found it helpful. If you know somebody who could benefit from this, please share it with them. And until next time, I will see you next time. Peace out and namaste.